I'm going to be spacing out this inquiry that I am engaging in here, this informal inquiry, as it were, over the course of, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 more videos besides this one. This one will serve as the introductory to the subject. And the subject that I'm going to be discussing, it's going to be controversial. It's going to be, yeah, I mean, like I'm any stranger to that, right? But what I'm afraid of, what I'd like to get some clarifications on right at the outset. I am not engaging in this inquiry in a snide way. I am not engaging in this inquiry in a manner that seeks to hurt anyone's feelings or make anyone angry. Although, no, that really can't be helped sometimes. But let it be known, it is not my intention. I just want to look at the facts as I have seen them, and just push this question to the forefront. And the question involves this diagnosis called borderline personality disorder. Some of you have probably heard of borderline personality disorder. Some of you may not have heard of it or may not know about it, but I'm going to be going into some detail about what the quote-unquote symptoms are of this disorder over the course of the next couple of videos, and so that way it'll be clear that I'm, going to the source. And it's not that I revere the psychiatric manuals. It's not that I necessarily think that personality syndromes are real, or if they are real, that they can be diagnosed the same way that you diagnose some kind of physical condition. They may be real in the same way that the so-called virus is real. People have symptoms, and they take a test that supposedly tells you whether or not you have this virus, even though the test itself does not tell you whether you have this virus. And in fact, the virus itself has never been isolated. Why am I treading on those waters again? Well, I think that when it comes to these kinds of disorders, or the diagnosis of these kinds of disorders, it can get a little dodgy in the same way that the so-called COVID test, the so-called COVID test are dodgy to diagnose. But what pushes me to make this inquiry, this informal inquiry, is simply that I'm at an age that is probably well past middle age. I'm probably well past the midpoint of my life. I've been around on this earth. I've seen some things. I've heard some things. I've met some people. I've been in some relationships. I've had some experiences, and I don't claim to be any kind of expert on the subject of women at all. I'm no Casanova. I'm no Don Juan. I'm no Lee Majors. But I still believe that I've been around, seen enough, heard enough, experienced enough to really, to the point where really I think I have some credibility in raising this question. Now, the question again involves borderline personality disorder. This is a disorder which has been diagnosed primarily among women. There are some exceptions to that rule. but it seems that primarily it's women who receive this particular diagnosis. And in my experience, and I do not say this as I'm not saying this to push any kind of agenda. I'm not saying this as this is not a MGTOW video. MGTOW, I'm fine with what they have to say. I don't consider myself one of them, but I think there are certain positive things that can be gleaned from them. But nevertheless, this should not be taken as a raw MGTOW kind of video, or the following videos on this subject should not be taken in that vein. I'm not pushing an agenda. Honest to goodness, I am not. I am only trying to understand reality. And my perception of reality as I know it, as I perceive it at this point, with my experiences so far, my perception is that at this point in time, a goodly portion of the female population are on the spectrum, at least, of being borderline personality disorder, of having borderline personality disorder, rather. On the spectrum. Okay, that is my assertion here. On being on the spectrum means just what it sounds like, of course. Just like you talk about people being on the autism spectrum, they're not all extreme. Some of them are very mild, but they all are part of a continuum. And I have to say, I am hard pressed when I think about women I have met and formed relationships with of one kind or other. I am hard pressed to think that they don't in some way fit the model of having borderline personality disorder. And so it would seem to me, again, from purely anecdotal data gathering, as it were, although I wasn't consciously gathering data, but we all gather data throughout our lives. We all experience things with other people and come to certain conclusions based on the things that we experience, or ask certain questions. So my assertion is that a majority of women might just have borderline personality disorder, whether in its extremist form or its mildest form or somewhere in between. Now, I know that's a controversial thing to say, and it sounds like I'm denigrating the female sex when I say that. Let me just add, again, I know there's a lot of disclaimers here. I have a daughter. I love her more than anything in the world, except for my son, whom I love equally as much. So I'm not all about putting down women. All right, that's not what this is for, and this is not either to uphold men, or to say men are great, or to say that men are the more the less disordered of the two sexes. And yes, two sexes. Two, and only two. Suck on it. It's so easy to be controversial these days. It's so easy to piss people off, and I love it. Anyway, I think that I'll probably wrap this up right now. But I just want to say, well, I've said it all already. I think I've said my piece. So at this point, I know some people will be reacting to my overarching thesis, and maybe some people will be offended. Maybe some people will agree and will be like, rah rah, yeah, stick it to him, stick it to the woman instead of stick it to the man. You know, again, that's not my aim here. I really am trying to be, I'm not going to apologize to anybody for anything that I say, but at the same time, let it be known I'm not doing this in any kind of mean-spirited way or with any kind of agenda in mind. This is all based on anecdotal evidence, you know, because I haven't, this is not an experiment where I have, you know, taken a bunch of people and had them isolated in a room and watched them behave with one another in those closed circumstances. It's rather just from my life experience. And my life experience would suggest that this fairly radical statement that I am making, that I know will run the risk of offending some people, and I know will make some people think that I'm a misogynistic pig or whatever, and will hurt some people's feelings. Again, none of that is, I mean, whether you call me a misogynistic or racist or whatever the hell else, I don't care. But as for the rest of it, you know, I honestly don't have an agenda here. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. So we journey forth from here. Next time we'll be discussing some of the symptoms of so-called borderline personality disorder and see where that takes us. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. Check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.